And this week we see that before Jesus declared to those on the mountain that day that they were the light of the world, he told them they were the salt of the earth. I love Jesus' teachings because Jesus had a way of using analogies that the people could relate to of his time. And it's significant that Jesus uses salt as a metaphor for his teaching. Family, we must remember that salt had many uses in biblical days. Salt was not just used to season food, but salt was also used to cure and preserve meat. In the centuries before modern refrigeration, salt was the method of choice for preventing bacteria from poisoning food. Salt could literally be the difference between life and death. Are you catching me yet? In a time when fresh food was unavailable. In other words, salt was valuable. Salt was treasured. But Jesus goes on to say that when salt has lost its flavor, or its value, if you will, it will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. Beloved, isn't it amazing that something which was once so valuable can one day be rendered worthless? And I'm on assignment today to declare to every one of you that in God's sight, we are all valuable. Come on, bless the Lord right there. In God's sight, we are all treasured. But here is the rub. We were not created to keep our value and our treasure to ourselves. But rather, Jesus declared, we are the salt of the earth. In other words, God intends for the world to benefit from the value that God has placed within us. Beloved, staleness is defined as having lost freshness, vigor, or initiative. And I don't stand before you today as the evaluator of your life. Oh no, I have my own evaluations to make. Amen? But to those of you under the sound of my voice, I offer this caution. Here it is. You ready? Evaluate yourself and not your pew partner. Preach, man. Evaluate yourself and not your family members. Evaluate yourself and not your company or its employees. Evaluate yourself and not your church. And yes, evaluate yourself and not your pastor. Shine the light on yourself. Because here it is. I am convinced that no one can make you stale. And family, if we find the boldness within ourselves to admit to ourselves that staleness is indeed creeping in, then I want you to know that the antithesis of staleness is freshness. And this is how the Holy Spirit gave it to me. If you are approaching a season of staleness, you ready? Go back to when you first opened the bag. What are you saying, Pass? Go back to when that area of your life which is approaching a stale state was fresh and new. What did you do back then? What did you do back then, bro, to make homegirl your wife now? What did you do back then to make homeboy your husband now? Why did y'all laugh so much back then and you can't stand to see them walk in the door now? I know I'm preaching better than you looking at me. What did you do back then to become employee of the month? What did you do back then when your ministry was so effective and everybody came out? And here it is. And what aren't you doing now? Beloved, here's a public service announcement. We don't serve a stale God. and we were made in the image of God. Therefore, whatever is stale in your life, you've got to put some prayer on it and shake up the bag, baby, because David demonstrated for us in Psalm 51 and 12 how we can pray to God to make it salty again. Restore unto me the joy of my salvation, and uphold me with thy free spirit. Don't lose your flavor, because God intends for you to do something in someone's life. I'm moving. For the Bible declares in 2 Timothy 1 and 6, this is why I remind you to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you. When I laid my hands on you, stir up the gift. You were never meant to be walking around with stagnant water. You were never meant to walk around and be in the same place. But here's the thing, past can't have the battery cables to jump your battery. You got to get your own. You got to find out how to reconnect. Do you know anybody that just ain't gonna do it? I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna lead. I ain't gonna follow. I ain't gonna serve. I ain't gonna contribute. I ain't gonna study. And I ain't gonna grow. And then they have the nerve to conclude that foolishness by saying, and I'm okay with how God made me. Come here, boo. That ain't how God made you. Let me give you some Bible. Ephesians 4:17 and 18.